Hey there friends and neighbors, Bobby Whiteside here today. Hey folks, I want to welcome you to our DVD on how to rebuild your Holley 800 double pumper. Folks, this is the carburetor we're going to be working on today. It's the one on my little race car here. And in this DVD, we're going to show you how to remove it, disassemble it, clean it with the proper solvents, and reassemble and tune it. So folks, thank you very much for purchasing this DVD. Sit back and stay tuned and we'll get this thing started. Okay friends, for the first thing to remove the carburetor here, we're going to take an old t-shirt and we're going to lay it down here on the manifold, and we're going to go ahead and take our fuel lines loose. Now what you'll need is a 1-inch wrench and a 5/8 wrench. Okay, go ahead and put your 1-inch on here on the large nut that goes into the fuel bowl and break loose your line. Now you want to do this on the front bowl and of course on the rear bowl. Let's go ahead and do that, and if any fuel runs out, the t-shirt should catch most of that. Okay, so now our fuel line is loose from the carburetor, and you can just lay that aside. And just to speed things up, I'm going to use my little cordless impact here today with a 1/2-inch socket on it. We're going to remove these two bolts on this side of the carburetor. Now we're using this just for removal. Now when we go back together, we won't be using a cordless impact. We'll actually tighten it down by hand. Lay your nuts and washers out of the way, and let's move on to the other side. Now on the driver's side of the carburetor, you want to go ahead and disconnect your linkage to your carburetor. And we got a neat little setup on this carburetor here. We have a solid type throttle linkage, and we have this little return bracket that actually bolts here to the front corner of the carburetor. So this is a neat little setup. It has some little spacers and stuff in here that you use, and it's kind of tricky. There's a lot of pieces to it, but it actually works out really good. It's about 5 different pieces here. I want to make sure I don't drop one. But here's the nut. Here's the first little spacer here. We're going to just pull it out. Yeah, I did drop it. Okay. Well, we'll fish that out with our magnet here in a little bit. Pull all these pieces off, and here's our throttle linkage. Let that hang down, and go ahead and remove these pieces so we don't drop them. It's a neat little setup. There's a little heim joint here on the end, and these pieces go in. It just pivots. It's nice and smooth. It doesn't bind or anything. And good little setup for the carburetor. For the carburetor linkage. Now we're going to use our cordless impact again on this side, and we'll remove our nut and flat washer. And on the front here, we'll be removing the nut and the flat washer, and also this bracket here that I was just telling you about, which is part of the linkage setup. See, that piece mounts right on there. It's got your 2 return springs, and these pieces all pivot on those little bushings, so it works out good. So now folks, we've actually got the carburetor totally disconnected here. Wait a minute, hold on, there's one more screw. I forgot there's another nut here that went on before the bracket did. So let's pull it off. We have one more flat washer here to remove. And actually, there we go. And now we're ready to remove this thing. Now friends, with all the hardware disconnected on the carburetor, we can just pull the carburetor off of the intake, and go ahead and grab yourself like one of your oil drain pans or something, flip the carburetor upside down, let all the fuel run out. This may take a few minutes. It's just going to take time for it to run out of the fuel bowls. And now we'll head on over to the workbench and we'll start disassembling this thing. Now friends, we got our carburetor up here on the workbench and we're going to start disassembling it. First thing we're going to do is take these fuel bowls off. So let's start with the front fuel bowl. There's 4 screws that hold on each fuel bowl. So let's just go ahead and break these loose, spin them out. Okay, now that we have all 4 loose, let's go ahead and just pull them out, and then you can go ahead and remove the fuel bowl and the metering block. Sometimes it'll stay stuck to the main body, sometimes it'll stick to the fuel bowl itself. Go ahead and separate these 2 parts. Now we'll go ahead and just lay these aside for the moment, but we'll remember that this is the front fuel bowl. We'll flip the carburetor around and we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll go ahead and loosen all 4 of these and remove them. Okay, now we have all of these loose. Let's go ahead and pull these out and pull the rear fuel bowl off, and actually it popped right off. We'll lay it aside and pull off the rear metering block. So there's our rear metering block, and we'll just lay it aside. We'll disassemble all these parts in a minute. We're just trying to get the main parts of the carburetor disassembled. Now next, let's go ahead and flip the carburetor upside down, and if your old gasket is still in place, just go ahead and peel it off, and it may come in a few pieces, and that's fine too. Now the bottom here, let's see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws, and you'll use a Phillips head. Actually it's the number 3, but usually they're not too tight, so you can get a number 2 screwdriver to work okay. Go ahead and loosen and remove all 8 of these screws here. Once all 8 screws have been removed, you can go ahead and separate the base plate from your main body. Now as you look here, we do see that we do have a piece of linkage that's holding these 2 together, and it looks like it has a C-clip. So we want to remove this C-clip on this carburetor here, and you can just take a screwdriver and pop the C-clip out of place. Hang on to that, don't lose that, and slide this linkage arm off of the little pivot here. Okay, so now we got our main body separated. Let's just lay it aside. Now here's the gasket that goes between the base plate and the main body. Hang on to that, okay, because you may have several different gaskets in your kit, and you want to match up the one, you know, that come off of here. So just hang on to all your old gaskets until we're done with the rebuild. Okay, we got all the main parts of the carburetor disassembled. We got it all laid out here. We got our main body, we got our rear fuel bowl, rear metering block, base plate, front metering block, front fuel bowl. See, pretty simple. It all comes right apart. Now there's a few things that needs to be disassembled further before we start cleaning it. Let's start with the main body. Right here you have your boosters, okay? Let's see if we can make sure you see that. We have a booster right here and a booster right here on the rear. Let's go ahead and take your Phillips head, number 3 screwdriver, loosen up these, pull them out, pull the first one out. Now let's take a look at this real closely here if we can. I don't know if you can see the number, but each one of these have a number on. This here is a number 31. They come in different sizes with different diameter bores in here to allow either more or less fuel to go through. So let's just keep in mind that in our front accelerator pump circuit we have a number 31. Okay, go ahead, pull the booster off. Now there's a gasket on each side. Go ahead and peel them off, and there'll be a gasket on this side here also. A lot of times it's stuck to the screw, and I just peeled it off. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull that out, and you shouldn't have any problem keeping track of these. These are different than like your base plates, because these do have like a tapered area on them, and you'll have 2 just like this right here, and you'll know that these are for your boosters. Okay, so just lay them down and we'll run them through the part solvent. Now also with your hand held out like this right here, go ahead and flip it over. There's going to be a needle inside here, and as you can see, there's a needle right there in the primary. Let's hang on to that so we don't lose it. And now let's do the same thing on the back. Go ahead and remove the booster. And let's see which side the gasket's stuck to. Let's go ahead and peel that little gasket off of there if we can. Okay. In the rear, we have a number 31. Okay, so there's a number 31 in the front and the rear. So we don't have to worry about, remember which is which. It's going to be the same. And we'll go ahead and peel our little gasket off of here if we can. If it's too hard, just let it go through the solvent. The solvent will definitely loosen everything up. But I like to go ahead and have most of my gasket material removed before I go into the solvent. And there we go, we got it off of there. So we'll lay that screw aside. Same thing on this side, flip it up, hold your hand out, flip it upside down. And it looks like this little sucker's stuck in here, okay? So let's see here, let's see if we can get a pick out of our drawer here. And see if we can kind of loosen this thing up a little bit. Alright, now let's see if it'll fall out of there. Yep, there it goes, okay. So there's our other little needle here, so just hang on to that. And that's basically everything on the main body that needs to be removed before soaking, okay? So let's lay this aside. Let's go to our base plate right quick. And we have a couple little rubber pieces on here to block off some air ports. Let's go ahead and pull them off to where they don't get destroyed in the solvent, because we will reuse these, because I don't know if I have any extras. And on the base plate, you can leave this piece of linkage in place. It'll be just fine. That's basically it. You can leave your arms for your accelerator pump installed. There's nothing here that can be harmed in any way. And of course, we may try to pull some more of this gasket off, or just wait until the solvent loosens it up for us. But actually right there, that's ready to go. So we'll go ahead and lay that aside. Now for the disassembly of the fuel bowls, okay? First of all, take your 5/8 wrench and hold it on top where this nut here. This is actually the lock nut for the adjustment of the needle and seat. Go ahead and take that screw there totally out, and you can lay it aside. Now there's a gasket. You see this nut here, it just pops on and off, and what it is, it has a slot here to where it grabs the top of this needle and seat, and I'll show you when I get it out. But you can go ahead and scrape your gasket off if you can get it off. If you can't, no big deal. Go ahead, and you should be able to do this by hand. You may have to get it started with a wrench. Just go ahead and start backing this needle and seat out, and you should be able to get a hold of it after a few turns and spin it out by hand. And let's just go ahead and take this totally out, and I'll show you how this setup kind of works. Okay, so here we go. Here's the needle and seat. So we'll pull it all the way out. Notice that there is an O-ring on here. Inside here is the needle that goes up and down, and it seats on here to block off fuel from coming in. Now the top of this nut here, this is what I love about a Holley carburetor, because you can adjust the fuel level in the bowl without taking the carburetor apart. You don't even have to take the bowl off. You just loosen that lock nut that we had screwed in here, and then you can actually spin this around, so you're actually adjusting the height of the float, because inside here this the needle actually rides on the float itself. So you're actually, you're making an adjustment on the outside of the carburetor for the needle and seat. So for now, these here you don't have to clean. You're going to get brand new ones in the kit, so you can just toss them aside. You will have to clean your nut here, and we've got the gasket off of both sides now. And let's go ahead, right over here on the side is a sight glass, and you can remove it. And it's just a little screw, a little set screw, and has a gasket on it. The gasket just fell right off. So we're good to go there. Now we can go ahead and remove the float. And to remove the float, there's two screws right inside here that are straight blades. And you can go ahead and just back them out. Each one of those out. And then we can remove the whole float. Okay, I think I have them out enough. Yes, I do. Okay, so here's our float, and it's a brass float, and it looks like it's in really good shape. Now, one way that you can test each one of your floats is just get you a container with water, and you can submerge the float and make sure you don't see any little air bubbles starting. You know, because that means the water would be going inside the float, but I don't believe there's anything wrong with these. As a matter of fact, I think the last time I built this carburetor on this race car several years ago, I believe I actually put new floats in it. But anyway, so we got good brass floats here. So let's lay that aside with the screws, and let's take a look here. We still have two more things we need to take loose on our fuel bowl. Take your number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to remove the accelerator pump. Okay, see if we can get that off of there. Feels like it's a little stuck. So let's go ahead and just pull all the screws out. And there we go. So here's the little housing for the accelerator pump here. You can lay it aside. You're going to run it through the cleaning solvent. And here is your accelerator pump, okay? It's a piece of rubber. Has a metal like washer riveted through the piece of rubber itself. Fuel fills up inside here, and when you hit the gas, the arm off of the carburetor squirts a burst of fuel through your booster and helps on acceleration. And now there's also a spring here. Pull your spring out, keep it aside. And one thing I will tell you, on the 800 double pumper, there is a different size. This is the rear fuel bowl. We haven't taken this one apart yet, and but it does have a larger accelerator pump on the rear bowl, okay? So just note that, and actually you can see the difference here in the thickness of the one that I took off of the front versus the one that's on the back. So there's a couple different size accelerator pumps in the kit, and you will be using the larger one on the rear bowl, okay? So you will have to make sure you get this one here back on your primary bowl and the larger one on your secondary bowl, okay? So basically that is about it. Now one more thing that we want to take loose on the bowl before we start cleaning it is the, let's see if I can get it broke loose, is our nut that goes into the bowl that our fuel line comes into, okay? Now, I will tell you this, on carburetors, they make little filters that you can put inside here, okay? I don't run filters on my bowls, okay? I run a large inline filter that is a canister type that I can change at any time. It's a Fram. So I do not recommend running little small filters inside your fuel bowl. I would recommend running an inline fuel filter, a large inline fuel filter, and change that often. Matter of fact, you would definitely want to change it after a carburetor rebuild. That's a great time to go ahead and change it there. So now we have the front fuel bowl totally disassembled, and it's ready to be soaked in the cleaner. So let's lay it aside. Now I won't go through the disassembly of this rear bowl because it's basically the same thing. Basically the same thing. You're going to take the break the nut here loose, spin out the needle and seat, remove the bowl, the float, remove the accelerator pump. Only thing you need to know, just remember this rear bowl has this larger accelerator pump on it. That's the only thing different in these two bowls. And of course you'll spin out your sight glass screw, take it loose, and you'll take off the part here where the fuel line goes in. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just lay that aside for now and move on to the metering blocks.